Hi, I'm David Clarke from Renovation Right, and I'm here to give you 5 tips on what you need to do when renovating for profit. Well, the first thing you need to do, obviously, is find out about the area that you want to renovate in or purchase in firstly. So the best way to do that is to talk to locals. What I like to do is actually go out and get a map of the whole area. Before I drive around and look at shops and where everything is and the properties, I look down onto the map and I look through it and I can see if there's a river running through the town, if I'm near the ocean, if I'm near train lines, schools, all that sort of thing. And you can do that in 5 minutes simply looking at even sometimes just a street directory. The next thing I could give you a tip on is possibly talking to your real estates and finding out where are the hot spots, because it's always spots that sell quicker, more profit, less profit, all that sort of thing. Because you have your certain people in certain areas, people will go to a certain area to purchase a property, and they're the ones you want to grab hold of. I suppose the next thing you need to know is, can you get a pre-approval of some kind before you go out and even look for a property? Because then you need to know, well, that's how much I can spend. We need to get an architect, we make a budget, and then we go and grab the builder and we make sure that he quotes with that budget in mind. Well, that's all wrong. In fact, it's in reverse. The first thing you want to do is get an opinion of a trusted builder or someone that you know might have done a few projects that you've looked at before, or some sort of recommendation. You're just picking somewhere in the paper or you're on your own there. But let's get that builder first, because the builder is there every day negotiating with costs and hardwares and all that sort of stuff. He knows what time it takes to pull walls out and whether or not they're load bearing. And what you're doing effectively is you're creating the budget, whether that's a small budget or a big budget. We'll get back to that. But the fact of the matter is, get the builder in first and create the budget with him. Then you take that budget to the architect and you make the architect draw to the budget. Too many people race in and they get all excited, and this is the emotion coming back in again. Remember, we're going to renovate for profit. We're going to live in there, and if we do live in there, we've still got to keep in mind that this is a business we're trying to make money out of. Okay, so then you take it to the architect, he draws it to that budget, and 9 times out of 10, if you've got a good relationship with the builder, then you go back to that builder and say, well, look, here, this is what we said. And we can still make adjustments. Instead, if you do it the other way, where you race out and get the architect, when you go to the builder, he says, here you go, how much it is. You almost faint from the price he puts in front of you. Then you go back to the architect. Not only have you got all the stress, but it's going to cost you money for the architect to rejig it. Let's talk about the big budget opposed to the small budget. Obviously, if we're trying to make a profit, we don't go out there spending willy-nilly. And the first thing you probably hear 1,000 times around any investing of properties is, don't renovate it like you're going to live in it. Now that's not a mean way to look at it. All they're trying to remind you is, do the necessities, make the adjustments, something that appeals to the buyer. What we're trying to achieve is 80% of the market. Whenever we renovate, big or small, or whatever your motive is, should always be considering 80% of the market down the track. Now let's talk about the small budget. Let's just do what we really need to do to make a profit. Okay, so it comes back to drawing yourself a plan of that area, or that house should I say, and seeing what you can use within that house. Can I simply take a door out here? Can I put a robe in there? Without having to reconfigure the whole house. Now, there's another thing that you need to remember, and it might just help you with your budget when you're laying it out. If this project's taking you more than 4 to 6 weeks, you're already losing money. Okay, that's an important thing. So if you're looking at the budget, you're saying, well, that's not too bad. It comes back to where I said right in the beginning, you've got to know your numbers before you start, right? Once you've talked to your real estate, you know how much you can spend, you need to go away, not negotiate with the real estate just yet, find out a particular property. I usually try and pick about 20 in that area, and why I say 20 is because I can, if I've got some sort of a template that I'm going for, I try to select 20 of those that are similar, and then I break myself down to about 5, and then I always leave it to 2. So when I'm negotiating with the real estate or even sometimes the direct seller, I'm not going to get into the emotional of where I really need that property. I've got another one over here and I can give that a bit of a, well, if you don't like it, I move on, or sometimes even work with the direct seller on what they may need if you listen to their story. When I talk about 20 properties and what I go for, I have this little template in my head. Well, the first thing I like to do if I'm visiting a property, and if you're visiting many properties, you want to get in and out fairly quickly, so the first thing you want to do is take yourself a little checklist. Draw yourself the little mud map of the house so you can go away, look down upon it and see whether or not there's rooms that are already in there that are ready to be renovated. A simple door here, or knock a wall out there, throw a robe in here, that sort of thing. It's like an overview of it. Now you can purchase any property, no doubt. What I'm trying to talk about there is what materials it's made out of. I prefer to purchase most of my properties with timber, cladding, all that sort of thing, because I find it easier to be able to make changes. So if you had a brick house, you go knocking out a wall, that affects all that side of the house, or possibly most of the house. You can't just race in and knock it out. And it's easier for the inexperienced renovator as well. Some serious outcomes can come from upsetting the brickwork in the house. I look for non-asbestos roofs. Sure, we can change them, but why add $10,000 to $12,000 immediately to your project? Everybody's aware of asbestos now, so if you go and purchase a property and then you spend half your time trying to negotiate with someone, or selling it to the real estate firstly to tell them, oh, it's okay, don't even get one with asbestos in it. Right? You can have it in your walls, that's easy to change, but a roof is a little bit more complicated and it's going to cost you, as I said, $10,000 before you start. Street appeal. We talk about street appeal, but when I'm going into a street, I want to look for something that's a little bit different from the rest. Some streets you'll look in and there might be a very similar theme. Say every third house is the same. I'm looking for the one that has a bit of character, that doesn't get boxed up all the others. People come to that house and they go, oh, this is nice. When you've got the same house, you've got to spend quite a bit of money initially just to even change the look at the front. So these are simple things that you can do that take away costs immediately. And I suppose the final tip is, do your numbers before you even start negotiating. And I mean, know how much you're going to spend on the renovation. Know how much you're willing to pay. Well, all these sorts of things will come out in the negotiation. But if you don't know exactly what it is you're going to do, or what features you like about the house, how do you know how much money to offer or where to stop? So that's taking all out the emotion again, and you'll hear that repeated over and over and over in investment. If you want to do well in investment, take out the emotion. Okay, you've probably heard enough from me, so let's get you out there and get renovating for profit. But take away 3 things from me. Take the emotion out of it. It'll kill you every time financially. If you start making decisions with your emotions and not on financial facts, you'll lose money. Have systems. When you do something, create a system. You'll notice then whether it works or it doesn't work, because you'll correct it as you go. And the final thing that I teach my students over and over and over and over is to not only just take the emotion out of it, but know your numbers. This is a business. Whenever I say the word business, I think of making a profit. And if you know your numbers, you'll have the profit in place. You need also to, in there when you're doing your numbers, you need a plan B. Remember, you may not be able to sell it straight away. You may have to fall back on the rental for a while. Good luck.